तुसे सारियां गी मेरी तरफों नमस्ते ते कन्ने पुगे दे व्रत दियां मतियां मतियां मुबारकां। आज साडे डुग्गर देश च सारी माएं अपनी बच्चें आस्ते व्रत करा दियां ते उन सारी माएं गी मेरी तरफों नमस्ते। आज साडे इतिहास दा जेड़ा चैप्टर है ओदा बड़ा ही जरूरी ते लास्ट चैप्टर है इस जर्नी दा, which we started from the times of Maharaja Gulab Singh all the way to today's scenario in Jammu and Kashmir. This journey will end here, but we hope we would be able to take this journey further with many different topics to cover about Jammu and Kashmir. Taking today's session further, I request Harbans Singh ji to talk us about today's topic.
Namaskar. It has been a great journey, and I must thank not only Lalit, Vikrant, Nakul, and all the members of International Dogra Society, but also all the viewers who have encouraged me a lot to speak more and more. We had never planned for this long a journey of history. But I think we were all enthused by the response that we got, that we continued with part by part with almost all the aspects of the state's history, beginning with Maharaja Gulab Singh, and today it will end with the present scenario. Last time I just mentioned the kind of governance that was given by Umar Abdullah. But let me dwell a little bit more on that period because that is interrelated. I find three incidents, events of this century very significant in the history of our state. The first is the Amarnath Yatra land allotment controversy, agitation, and the emergence of a very clear-cut fault line between Kashmir and Jammu. A number of people died during that agitation. The second most important event was 2010, which I spoke about during my last lecture. In 2010, three residents of Baramulla, they were killed in a fake encounter by the army, and that gradually blew up into a huge agitation which lasted many months, and almost 120 people were killed. They lost their lives. Third, we'll dwell today, 2016, in the aftermath of the killing of Burhan Wani. Another 100 people died. These three incidents are interrelated. But let me now begin chronologically with how and what happened during this period. 2008 is significant because there was a change of guard. A new generation had emerged, and Farooq Abdullah made way for his son, Umar Abdullah, the next generation. The third generation of the Abdullahs became the chief executive of the state. Unfortunately, he came with a baggage, and he did not realize that it was a baggage which was designed for the destruction of the person who carried that baggage. Sheikh Abdullah might be a person who genuinely believed in the autonomy of the state. But by the time Farooq Abdullah came to power, it should have been amply clear to him that autonomy is not on the table. That what is there, you have to make use of that. In fact, Dr. Karan Singh wrote a letter to report to Mrs. Indira Gandhi when Sheikh Abdullah, still out of power, met him in Delhi. And Dr. Karan Singh invited him and his family also for lunch. And I presume that since the whole family was there, Dr. Farooq Abdullah too must have been there. Dr. Karan Singh had made it very clear that during the past 30 years, the country has come to believe that J&K is integral to our constitution, to our ideals. That it is not only a part of the country, but that because of the secularism and liberalism and socialism which is inbuilt in our constitution, this idea of autonomy will not be acceptable to the people of this country. He was the first who used the slogan of autonomy as a tool of politics. Umar Abdullah should have realized that this was a folly, this is a mistake. But he too came with this baggage. So what were his goals when he became the chief minister? His goal was to provide good governance. Second goal was to take the state back to the 1953 position. The third goal was that Armed Forces Security Protection Act, that should be repealed. First is fine, that is the duty of every government to give good governance. The second and the third were impossible. The country could not revert back to 1953. As long as the peace is not fully established, as long as the civil administration is not in complete control of the situation, as long as the civil administration is dependent upon the army for maintaining peace, the army would be needing special powers so that it is protected from the normal rules of this country. He had these three goals. And unfortunately, what was added to it was that his style of governance was dependent upon social media. He was the first politician in this country who used Twitter just as Donald Trump had used it. Donald Trump went to the other extreme. But Umar Abdullah also used Twitter, which was not acceptable to the people of this country. It is not acceptable even today. For the simple reason that in India, we want to be seen close to our leader. We want physical proximity for talking our problems. And if he gives an order to someone else, they want to be sure that they have heard the order properly. They want to hear it with their own ears. So he would just send a message on Twitter, and the people always felt there was a gap between the chief minister and them. 2 years passed. After 2 years, the Machil incident happened of the fake encounter. Now, that is a separate issue. At some other time or some other forum, that can be discussed, how the armed forces work and where the laws have let the country and the civil society down. That is a separate subject. But the ensuing agitation was dealt very harshly. So harshly indeed that even Hindustan Times reported that people were denied, the length of the curfews was so long that people were denied of vegetables, milk, and even baby food. So this puts a gap between the ruler and the ruled. If this thing happens, when medicine is not available to you, when baby food is not available for the children, when the milk which is essential in our life is not available, forget about the non-vegetarian food. the vegetables are not available, which are in abundance in and around Srinagar. So that thing confirmed to the people that Umar Abdullah is an incompetent chief minister. And he was seen to be siding with the central forces. So that was a sin for which he could not have been forgiven very easily. The Kashmiri Pandits, they poured more oil on the fire. They could do nothing, so they went to meet Pranab Mukherjee, demanding that Armed Forces Special Powers Act should not be revoked, that Kashmir requires it. He was a defense minister at that point of time for a short while. And there was dharna in Jammu and Delhi also by Kashmiri Pandits. Thus ended 2010. And then something happened in 2014 for which Umar Abdullah is not to be faulted. The people had rejected him in their minds. But what happened was that there was a prolonged period of rains in September. The floods that occurred in Kashmir were not the first of their kind. Kashmir is always a victim of floods whenever there is an extended period of rains in September. In history, a number of incidents are there. That is why Raja Amar Singh, father of Maharaja Hari Singh, he had brought engineers from Europe to design the canal system so that the floods of Jhelum could be carried away. The geography of the valley is such that it is surrounded all around by the mountains. There is only one opening in the valley, and that is at Baramulla. And it is because of that myth has been created to explain the geography of Kashmir, that it was a Satisar, this happened, and then the Vajra of God that cut the mountain in two and the water flowed out. But the fact is, this is the geography, that all water from south side of, from the north side of the Pir Panjal, that is south of Kashmir, all river flows to the north through Srinagar and then on towards Baramulla. After that, it goes towards Muzaffarabad and on to the plains of Punjab. That is Jhelum. Floods occurred. Floods occur, Kashmiris know that. But the problem was, in this age, the Met Department should have predicted and the administration should have taken appropriate measures. The Met Department did warn the state that rains are likely to extend in the month of September. But the government did not do anything. In fact, when the floods came, Umar Abdullah tweeted that don't worry, we'll reach you. After promising the people that the government will reach them, what happened was that he was unable to reach his own ministers. And after the floods, he confessed that for many days the government remained powerless. He remained powerless because he was unable to contact his officers, his ministers. And where were the ministers and the senior officers? They were busy. They were busy evacuating their families to Jammu and Delhi. And the people of Kashmir, the boatmen of Jhelum and Dal, they came to the rescue of the civil population. There is a very interesting and very significant analysis of this period by two scholars, Venugopal and Yasser. And I would like to read some part of it, then what the study found. Shujat Bukhari, the slain editor of Kashmir Rising, he wrote that Umar Abdullah had promised them that nothing to panic. We will reach you, I promise. And Shujat Bukhari says, and then he abandoned everybody. This has been a complete failure of the government. Even a week after the floods, people are stranded without food and water in central areas of the main city of Srinagar. That is how bad things are. The state government, obviously, it remained a mute spectator. And what did the national media do? The national media used the floods as a platform to paint the Indian army as the saviors. But the army was actually busy in rescuing the non-locals and the tourists. The police appeared on the scene only when the dust had settled. So what was the consequence of this? The consequence was that the floods confirmed what the people had already known. First, it provided evidence that the state government was ineffective and that the central government does not prioritize them. Secondly, it confirmed widely held perceptions that the Indian media is hostile to them, that it willfully distorts the reality of what happens in Kashmir. Thirdly, it reinforces the belief that their safety and well-being rests within elements of Kashmiri society itself. These are very significant findings of these scholars. So in public perception, the state government had failed, the central government had failed, and so had the national media. National media was simply projecting the image of the army. And I can vouch for this, that I know that most of the important people, they were able to come out very easily. They had no problem in being rescued. The only people who could not be rescued were the local people, the wives and the families of all the officials. They were airlifted. They were the army boats, they rescued them from their homes and they reached Jammu. So I would tend to agree with these findings. The media, of course, media was busy building the image of the Indian army, that they were the good Samaritans, they were the good guys helping out people. The important role was played by the locals. They helped each other. The benevolence of the few and the hard work of the young people, they helped, they reached out wherever they could. In all, 200 people died during these floods. So it was very obvious that Umar Abdullah had to be ousted. And duly, that year when the elections took place, Umar Abdullah was ousted and a new equation of the political parties there appeared. The failure of National Conference that had ensured its poor performance in the elections, The consequence was that PDP won 28 seats, the National Conference only 15, the Congress 12, and BJP sweeping the Jammu region with 25 seats. But this did not create a situation where a government could be formed. Neither the PDP could form a government with Congress as it had done earlier, nor could he form a government with National Conference, that both Kashmiri parties, they come together. The only possibility was that if PDP, National Conference and Congress, they come together, maybe they can form a government. To all sane persons, it did not appear likely that the BJP could be the one which will be forming a government. After more than a month, the results were declared on 23rd December. And yet, till late February, no government could be formed. On February 24, people were shocked, rather, I would say, as BJP President Amit Shah and Mehbooba Mufti announced that PDP was entering into an alliance with BJP. Now, this is the most unlikely alliance, for the simple reason that BJP is committed to abrogating Article 370. PDP is committed to bringing back the 1953 autonomy. BJP is committed to programs which have no place for any of the PDP's policy programs. And yet they announced that they will be forming government. The argument given was that for the sake of the state, the dominant party of Kashmir and the dominant party of Jammu, they have to come together and work in a united manner for the welfare of the state. So that, in fact, I would say is the argument of nationalism, patriotism, is an argument which is often used by rogues, as Dr. Samuel Johnson wrote about William Pitt the Jr., the British Prime Minister then. This is how things were. And apparently, the people were indifferent, somber, but indifferent to the situation. They had contempt for PDP for having compromised so heavily. And therefore, on the surface, it appeared that everything was going on smoothly. The best period in many, many years was the summer of 2016. That was the summer when there was a heavy footfall of tourists from all over the country. And I cannot forget that my daughter had never been to Kashmir. As she started growing, things had gone wrong and we could never go. Then one of her colleagues was to get married, a Sikh girl from Srinagar, and she was invited. So both of us, we went there. She was so delighted to see such, forget about the beauty of the valley, that how all the languages, all the dialects of the country could be heard everywhere, particularly the lakeside and Avantipura, anybody going to Pahalgam, the tourists, they do not know where Martand is. Nobody goes to Martand unless there is a crazy fellow like me who knows that this is Martand and who goes there. Also Verinag. Verinag also, the tourist buses, tour operators, they do not take the visitors. But Pahalgam is a destination. On way is Avantipura, and there the ruins of the temples can be seen. So they go and visit that place. And every kind of dialect could be heard there. We came back, and my daughter spoke to one of her friends. They were so motivated that they also went. And they came back very happily. In fact, the mother of that friend, she rang up her elder son in USA and told him कि अगर तुमने कश्मीर नहीं देखा ना तो बेटे तुमने कुछ नहीं देखा है. And about a fortnight after that, Burhan Wani was killed. The death of Burhan Wani brought in a new phase of the militancy period. But one comment before I move on to that period, and that is that in 2016, I'll come in detail about this period, 2016, after the death of Burhan Wani, and after the news had been blocked of every kind, the only people who were reporting were those who were aligned with the government. They reported in a partisan manner, which further aggravated the situation in Kashmir. The comment, I think I'll come back to that comment of Mark Tully. So Burhan Wani, that is significant for one reason, rather two. First, he is the first genuine homebred militant from the valley. He never visited Pakistan. He did not seek any help from ISI or Pakistan. The funds that he raised was from local resources. The arms that he procured were from his own resources. His death brought out people from all over the valley, all marching towards his village in Taral, just to offer their prayer at his graveyard. It made it very clear that now the rural Kashmir had also been sucked into the agitation. This is the first time that the rural Kashmir was involved. All the agitations, all the protests had always been the town centric, city centric. Post Burhan Wani killings, these spread towards the countryside. We can go on debating endlessly about how it happened or whether it happened at all. But reality cannot be ignored. The reality was that people had become totally indifferent to what the government was telling them. There have been many periods when the government has been able to control them, 96, 20 to 208, but each time the valley has always slipped back into that militancy era. people, we do not, those who are interested in strategic analysis, we do not give great credence to the fact that Muslim community in the world might be having their own grievances, that their grievances can be genuine. Now, may I point out that America is never a terrorist state. Iran is. America, which bombed to dust 2 cities, destroyed Japan, the civilian population, is not a terrorist act. Britain bombed Dresden to rubble. Even the BBC has made a documentary on the destruction of Dresden. And yet Britain is never a terrorist state. Palestinians who have been pushed out of their homes, the homes where they had been living for centuries. Kashmiri Pandits have been pushed out of their homes, and we mourn for that. We sympathize with them. The Palestinians who have been pushed out of their traditional homes, living since the biblical times, their pushing out is not a tragedy. And every month, every year, new areas are being grabbed by the Israeli authorities to create townships for the Jews. It is never, the Israeli state is not a terrorist state. The meaning of terrorism, terrorist state, has changed over the years, and it has been defined by the USA, and the whole world, because of its power, follows it. So this is a reality, and we must, as students of history, must acknowledge that there is a flawed argument about terrorism and terrorism. After all, in Great Britain, the British government did shake hands with Sinn Féin. It happens. So we need to be talking to them. Blocking any conversation is not going to help. So that's summer. The unfortunate thing was, for the first time, we used an Israeli weapon for controlling the protests, and that was the use of pellet guns. I see Brigadier Vijay Sagar is also here, and the gentleman beside his side, I'm sure that he too is from the armed forces. And let me say in their presence, since they must be knowing more than me, that pellet guns is not an innocent weapon. Pellet guns, they are packed with 500 small pellets, which when fired, fly all over. And the target is not within the control of the person who has fired a pellet gun. So pellet gun got used for the first time. Number of people were blinded, were injured, and flying pellets, they reached even homes. And only when the picture of that young girl, her face, baby in the arms of her mother, her face pocked with pellets and eyes blinded, that shook a little bit of our conscience that this is not done. The matter went to the Supreme Court. But all that the Supreme Court said, Justice T.S. Thakur and Justice Chandrachud, that the state should restrain from using such weapons. Again, it went to the High Court, the J&K State High Court, and the High Court ruled that armed forces cannot be asked to stop using the pellet guns. In fact, the discourse that veered towards the other end, that, okay, not pellet guns, we'll use power guns based on chili powder, which all reports say is equally deadly for the health of the person, particularly the eyesight. So 2016 left number of people mutilated, blinded, apart from 100 odd deaths that took place. Saiba Verma, an assistant professor of anthropology at the University of California, San Diego, United States, she wrote, "The lack of empathy in the face of mass Kashmiri suffering exemplifies how deeply embedded the logic of dehumanization and demonization of the other has become India's majoritarian Hindu public. Kashmiri Muslims are the other, whose pain and suffering is suspect because their very humanity is suspect. Not recognizing the humanity of humanity of the suffering other has become an emblem of xenophobic and nationalist governments globally. President Trump did this. He separated children from their mothers, very young children. I don't know how it turns out after that, or that template becomes permanent. But this is how we have tried to deal with this situation. Rather than dealing democratically, politically, we have resorted to violence and more violence. So by this time, the fate was sealed, particularly of PDP, that it's finished in the valley. In 2018, one incident that destroyed the whole facade. And the incident was not planned. It was an unplanned incident in which, in Kathua, an 8-year-old Gujar girl, she was found raped and murdered. Initially, the police tried to point out the blame on some Gujar self, but soon it became clear that the culprits were local Hindus there. So it snowballed into a confrontation between Hindus and Muslims. That rape issue of a child, that was forgotten. The human angle that a young 8-year-old girl had been raped and murdered, that became secondary. The important thing was that the Hindu leaders, and a number of new Hindu leaders emerged. They tried to pass on the theory that since Pandits in particular, most of them involved in it were Pandits, and the village priest also was involved in it, of covering up the tracks. They could not have raped a girl. Since we worship goddess, and a young child, an 8-year girl, is a goddess, therefore Hindus could not have murdered her or raped her. Ultimately, the case had to be transferred from Kathua to Pathankot, but the prosecution stuck to its guns and they were found guilty. This put the BJP also in a soup. It had failed to protect the Hindus. Even if they are rapists or murderers, they need to be protected by the BJP leadership. And I'm sure that had the case not been transferred by the Supreme Court, no judge would have been in a position in Jammu to conduct a fair trial. The result was that if PDP had lost ground in Valley, BJP was also losing all ground in Jammu region. And that is the point when new leadership started emerging that Jammu should be separate. For 3 years, nobody spoke, almost 4 years. But now they started feeling that Jammu needs a separate state as well. In other words, that a state where only the Hindu mindset is able to govern properly. It was in these conditions that finally BJP decided that the central government, that enough was enough, that we are fast losing ground. So in order to put a break to it, the BJP withdrew support to Mehbooba Mufti's government and the government fell. Now it is claimed that PDP, National Conference and Congress were at that point in time prepared to come together, and they had been approaching the governor, Mr. Satyapal Malik, at that point of time. But President's rule was announced. This was the scenario by 2019. This was a year when the elections were to take place, the general elections in the country. And BJP had lost considerable ground in the country as well. Demonetization had destroyed the economy. The unplanned implementation of GST had proved detrimental to business. Unemployment had begun to rise very high. Economy had nosedived. And in such conditions, when opposition was flexing its muscles that we'll gain ground now, the incident of Pulwama happened. A few days back, I was at Brigadier Vijay Sagar's platform, International Studies of Jammu and Kashmir and Analysis, Strategic Analysis. And one of the panelists, main speakers, I asked him a question that when Pulwama happened, why was no responsibility fixed of which intelligence agency or which intelligence agencies failed in performing their duties? I must say that I did not get the answer. By saying that intelligence failures occur even in USA occurred, and the WTC attack took place, but one attack took place. After that, nobody has attacked America. They have always anticipated what is happening and preempted them. And we are serial offenders in this manner. We did not know about Kargil. We did not know about the attack on Red Fort. We did not know anything about the attack on Parliament. We did not know anything about the attack on Mumbai and many other military installations after that. No intelligence agency has ever preempted any terrorist attack in our country, and no responsibility has been fixed, no accountability has been fixed. Though to the credit of Indian Air Force, when this Pulwama thing happened on February 14th, and on 26th February, the Mirage aeroplanes took off for Balakot attack. That very day, an Indian Air Force helicopter was shot down in a friendly fire by mistake. The lives were lost. Air Force immediately instituted a court of inquiry, and within a very short period, the responsibility of the failure was fixed on 5 Air Force officials, and they were duly punished by the Indian Air Force. But nobody till date, we are going on arresting more and more accused in the Pulwama attack. But no finger has ever been pointed to which intelligence agency failed that. Failed to anticipate, failed to get information, or if there was any information, how that information was disseminated. We have no clue, we have no idea, or rather, we allow that to happen. That is one way of saying it, putting it, that we deliberately allow that. If that is so, that's a very dangerous kind of a claim, and it gives credence to many novels which say that war and terrorism has become an industry in which everyone is gaining. So this was 2019. Now the whole scenario changed. The media and the government, they had succeeded in turning the anger of the people not against the government, which had failed consistently for 5 years, but towards the attackers of Pulwama. And by attacking Balakot, the Prime Minister proved that he is a very strong man. And indeed, it was a very bold decision to attack, because it could have triggered a nuclear war. But the whole world knew that the blame would lie with Pakistan, for the simple reason that since 1999, I had spoken about this briefly last time, or the earlier one, that in 1998, India had conducted the nuclear test, and Mr. Vajpayee had announced in English, obviously he was addressing the international audience, that look, India is occupying the place which belongs to it. Soon thereafter, Pakistan also detonated. And in contrast to Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who had worn his trademark kurta dhoti and had spoken in English, Nawaz Sharif, he addressed the national television of Pakistan and spoke only in Urdu, trying to convince the people of Pakistan that Pakistan is equal to India, and that this step has ensured that India will not attack Pakistan, because the retaliatory attack of nuclear bombing will also come from Pakistan. So this is the mindset. So in their mind, Pakistan was confident that nothing can happen to him. India cannot escalate the tension. And indeed, India had never escalated tension. In 2008, every world power would have supported us if we had attacked Pakistan. Nobody would have blamed India. But all strategists of the world, they acknowledge that the restraint shown by India was remarkable. And thereafter, a number of attacks had been taken on military installations in India, and India had not retaliated across the border. So this time, when 40 of its paramilitary forces were killed by a suicide bomber. And when India attacked Balakot, the world stood behind India, and because the moral question, the answer to that moral question was in favor of India. The consequence, the result of this was that BJP scored a landslide victory. 303 seats out of 500 and I think 23 seats, and the NDA scored even more, 358, but BJP was now on its own. Now was the time for it to redeem its pledge made in 1950 of abrogating the Article 370. The consequence, as we know, is that first, the triple talaq was made illegal by BJP. One of the major planks of BJP has always been that there should be a uniform civil code in the country. But that's a little bit difficult to achieve. So it did the next best thing. Since a segment of the Muslim population would also be supporting this cause, so they opted to follow that course of making the triple talaq illegal and punishable. The second step was that Article 370, it had to be meticulously planned. And in fact, BJP did it. I was also booked for 5th August for Kashmir that day. And 2 days before that, the airlines refunded my money. And I knew that this chance is gone. And I don't know when I'll get the same kind of atmosphere which I had experienced in 2016. We all know that how it happened. It has happened. The courts have not taken cognizance of all the petitions. None of them is on the plate of Supreme Court. Many people, they criticize, and that criticism is not taken kindly by anyone. Now, what I wanted to say of a comment by Mark Tully, the veteran BBC journalist, who is now an Indian. He has been living so long in this country since the 70s. He says that I do not agree with those who say that there is an emergency today. The government does not exercise total control over the media, except in Kashmir. Under that state's new news and media policy, it is up to the bureaucrats and security officials to decide which news is fake or anti-national. A much misused catch-all word, and should therefore be censored. So it is the bureaucrats and those people who control the news. But he continues that recently, Prime Minister Narendra Modi discussed the pandemic with Bill Gates by video conferencing. Gates once said, "Sometimes I think my most important role as a CEO is to listen for bad news. If you don't act on it, your people will stop bringing bad news to your attention, and that is the beginning of the end." He further continues, "It is the media's job to bring bad news. The PM should take note of that news and act on it rather than try to suppress it. He should not shoot the messenger. He should listen to the message. If he doesn't, he will be misled, as Indira Gandhi was, by a chorus of sycophancy. The fact is, this is what is happening today. How long it will continue, I'm not sure. I can go on and on this subject. Briefly, I have touched a number of things when we were discussing Article 370, that it was almost dead when it was abrogated and a new situation created. But for me, the worst part is that apart from abrogating the Article 370 is the death of the state of Jammu and Kashmir as it was created by Maharaja Gulab Singh. This is a very significant step. We, the Dogras, have not realized what has happened. That something from our psyche, from our DNA has been taken out. Ladakhis are very happy. And as I spoke on Brigadier Vijay Sagar Dhiman's platform, with that I will end this lecture, and with this, the series, which we have been running for a long time now. Somebody asked me in Chandigarh that what has happened in J&K state. I said that there is a Haryanvi story, folk story, that a person was a very devout worshipper of Lord Shiva. And one day Lord Shiva was so happy with his devotion that he asked him that ask for anything. But remember that whatever you ask of me for yourself, I am going to give the double of that to your neighbor. So think over it and ask. He thought hard and then said that, oh God, take away one of my eyes. The Lord said, okay. So his one eye was gone, but his neighbor lost both the eyes. So where do we stand today? We have lost our eye. The Dogras have lost their eye. Kashmir has lost both the eyes. But there is a happy ending for Ladakhis. They have regained 6/6 eyesight in both their eyes by getting rid not only of Kashmiris but also of Dogras. Thank you very much. It has been a great pleasure. Thanks a lot, Lalit, and thanks a lot all the listeners of this platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Harbans sir. You have been very kind and very patient with us for so many weeks or months. We have been covering Dogra history, as we said in the start, all the way from Maharaja Gulab Singh and how our state was formed till today, when we are in a situation where our state is no longer a state but a union territory, and it has been divided. Before we go any further, I would ask anyone in the audience if they have any questions regarding today's session or anything there from Harbans sir, they can go ahead now.
Can I? Lalit?
Ji Virendra sir, please.
Thank you very much. First, congratulations to Harbans ji for giving us such, I won't use the term lecture, but certainly the very guiding notes to understand the background and where we are today. And I'm also glad that Vijay ji has already joined, and he will carry on for the future developments. Mine is that though it is the last lecture as in the series, Lalit, that if there's any possibility in the future to understand, which is I'm quite closely talking to Vijayji, and I think that your role is as crucial as everybody else to find out how best we can solve the current position where we are standing now. What is our future? How we take it? And is that J&K is going on as a, or stay as a disputed land or disputed state? Or there's a possibility of finding the consensus to accept. Vijayji is aware. I'm sorry if Vijayji feels that I'm using his name more. That as he knows that the way in Britain, the anti-India lobby, or I use the term anti-India lobby, attacking the Kashmir issue and confusing the white or the Western politicians on the issue. So is there any possibility, in your view, that we have reached to a stage where we can find the solution to the argument?
When Mr. Khurshid Kasuri, the former foreign minister of Pakistan, wrote his book, Neither Dove Nor Hawk, he was here in Chandigarh for the release of the book. And he gave a very wise opinion and some insight which we who live in Chandigarh and Punjab were not aware. Though because of the proximity, because of so much of people coming and going before the recent developments, we thought that we knew Pakistanis well. But he disseminated some information which I find very useful. He said that you people must understand one thing, that the Pakistani society is dominated by three kinds of people. One is the business community, and that business community, particularly in Punjab of Pakistan, is dominated by people of Kashmir origin, not who migrated after 1947, but who had migrated earlier. If you remember, Dr. Allama Iqbal, he also has a Kashmiri heritage. He was a Pandit, his family was a Pandit's family. And there are many more important names. So this is a very important segment which influences the policies of Pakistan. The second is the rural side, which is divided in two parts. One is dominated by the big landlords who are mostly Rajputs and Jats. So Pakistani land is divided between Jats and Rajputs, Muslim Rajputs and Muslim Jats. And there is a third segment which is called Raiya. Raiya are the people who cultivate the land, who form the backbone of the peasantry. And in our state, in our Jammu, they were known as people who grew vegetables. He says that we have to give something to them. And therefore, when Atal Bihari Vajpayee and President Musharraf, they were so close to reaching an understanding, that was the basis that let there be a free flow from the borders. Now, what happened was that there was a misuse of the borders, this free flow, and smuggling also took place, but smuggling takes place from Atari also. Atari border is also not very safe. There also, the gangs, they are those who are creative people, they find ways of smuggling. But that's it. One part is, unfortunately, he says that we went back empty-handed, we couldn't give anything to our people. Kashmiri population in Pakistani Punjab is so dominant that they have to be appeased. They need to come and go out of Kashmir, particularly those who migrated after 1947. That, because of the recent developments since the 80s, that has been the thrust of my conversation, that since 80s, the dialogue has taken a direction which, Virendraji, I do not see that in near future we can reach a peaceful accord. I don't think that is possible, because, or if we want to be optimistic, General B.K. Sharma at Vijay Dhiman's platform, he is the first army man who I have heard, who suggested that let us have a dialogue with Kashmiri leadership. That is very important. Today, Dogras and Kashmiris, they don't communicate with each other. They have not been communicating for a long, long period now. And the basic fault line is the divide between Kashmiri Muslims and Jammu Hindus. And that is used by interested segments to foment trouble. And gradually, that has percolated down to the rest of the country, where the Muslim is the other. Kashmiri Muslim is particularly the other, who does not need any sympathy, who should not be considered as a human being. And as I said, whose humanity is also suspect, as Saiba Verma found in her study. Can we do that? We have traveled so far in our journey of hatred within our country. Unless that bridge's gap is filled, I don't think we can make any conversation with Pakistanis. So that is the first step. How we do that, God only knows. At least I have no answer to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Brigadier Vijay Sagar, would you like to add something?
Well, I must congratulate Mr. Samvyal in a big, big way. A wonderful marathon session for International Dogra Society, a very noble cause for the Dogra fraternity. And I'm sure he's put in lots and lots and lots of hard work to, at least I've been doing it for almost, I think, 12 odd lectures myself. And there was something before me also. And I must congratulate, sir. You've done a wonderful this thing. But yes, you have your views. One must have a view. Nobody should be without a view. Whether your view is right or my view is right, or we concur or we sort of oppose to each other, that doesn't matter and should not matter. It matters, but it should not matter. And like you said, you heard the first army man, which may not be true for me. Maybe I've heard it many times. Maybe I've propagated that. Maybe International Institute of J&K Studies Analysis is because of that only. That was started in J&K and supposed to be the first one outside Delhi. And there are lots of intellectuals in the country, within the state and outside, are holding my hand, putting the hand on my head on this. He said, "Beta, chalo aage, we are with you." There's a reason, because everybody feels in a particular manner. What's happening is unfortunate, is not warranted, and nobody wants it. But yet it happens. Yet it happens. Now, sir, the point is, which I want to convey to everybody, because this is an international forum, and whatever is spoken over here has lots of international ramifications. And whatever has been happening for last, let's talk about 73 years, that again we are perpetuating that only, which can be avoided if one wants it. Not that I'm advocating that one should do or you should do or he should do or somebody. It is individual choice. What I am trying to say is, whenever we are giving a historical fact, yes, that is a fact. But then when we have to give a judgment, now what Harbans sir, whatever I have noticed from your so many works, I've read your couple of books also, and I have interacted with Dr. Karan Singh also. He told me all about things about you, and lots of other things. You, like anybody else, any other scholar, any other learned person, any other intellectual in India or abroad, has been relying on the authors who are of Pakistani origin, US origin. They may be big names. I'm not denying them at all. But then the point is, the problem of Jammu and Kashmir is so complex. In fact, if I wish I had time, I would tell you what the Gilgit-Baltistan, there's a WhatsApp group of which I am part, and I interact with them also, what they think, and you will be startled if you start listening to their views. It's something totally which I never heard of. Yeah, aisa bhi hota hai. But then that is there. So one has to see, before giving since you belong to Jammu, your word has got a different meaning rather than A, B, C, Kasuri saying. Now Kasuri has given you some 3 versions of Pakistanis. I can give you another 6 versions of that same thing. Somebody can give you a version of Kashmiri Muslims. I'm telling you, there is something called, there are SQMs who are outsiders, and 90% of the guys are insiders who are also inferior to those guys. Within the Kashmiri Muslim society also there is a divide. So my point is that if somebody has to realistically assess the situation in Jammu and Kashmir, that person has to be here and doing it. You cannot say that I read a book of American author or this author or that author. They all have their vested interest. Like yesterday, I was sitting with General Govardhan Singh Jawal. I think he's not on the show. He showed me a book written, translated into English now, written in 1954 by a Bengali chap. There was an absolute, I don't want to use the word starting with N. I shouldn't be doing it. I mean, it is a distortion. Now, since it was written in 1954 by somebody who was in Calcutta, he commented on something that's happening in J&K. Today, some great guy like me, she's like translating it and propagating from a very, very reputed publisher. So that becomes a authority for a person who's going to give a judgment next. And obviously, judgment is going to be wrong. So that is my humble effort, why I'm in Jammu. Because I was told to sit in Delhi policy group. You're a senior fellow with us, start working. I said, let me go to Jammu. Let me establish my office there. I gave them my arguments, which were accepted. But they probably were short of funds or whatever. So they said, okay, better you start on your own. I'm doing it. So, sir, my only point is you have an opinion about Burhan Wani, you have 370. You are saying courts haven't taken any notice of 370 PILs. Well, I have a plan to sit with you for the whole day in Panchkula. We can discuss about that amongst ourselves. But then there are a lot of versions of it. And all those people who are listening to this platform, whether on Facebook or here, I would only request you guys, all of you, my request personal, that I'm not saying believe A, B, C or listen to me, because what I'm saying is also a version. That is also a version. Please listen to the things and then use your own brains and start following. Do not be a blind follower to anybody, because this is a very, very complex issue. If there are 100 people in this world, there will be 100 opinions. That is what the psychology says. That is what the neuro-linguistic programming says. I'm the master practitioner of that as well. So it will be a different thing. So that nothing should be taken to conclusion by virtue of, say, one authority. And that is what I would request. And I would, again, I'm too junior and too smaller a thing in front of Mr. Samyal. So I can't say I commend you for this. I don't have the, requisite wherewithal to comment on his work. But it is excellent. And it is, lot of hard work, lot of passion. And of course, I would come and spend some time. So that is my message for you all. Well, if at all you accept, I'm there for you all. And let's find out something, a reasonable issue wherein people of Jammu and Kashmir have their own voice. Today there is no voice of Jammu and Kashmir. सच का तो बाहर मतलब ही कोई नहीं है. वो मोदी को गाली देने के लिए destroy everything. GST भी गलत है, farm laws भी गलत है. Everything is wrong because that is a nincompoop sitting in Delhi who knows nothing. He has no experts with him. They're all zero guys, you know. So with that kind of a mindset, I think let's open our minds and reduce the misery of people of J&K state who've been suffering for at least 73 years. I'm not going back to 100 and so many years, मैं नहीं बोलूँगा, but 73 years का तो हम कर ही सकते हैं. Thank you very much. I'm grateful that you allowed me to speak about it.
Thank you, Brigadier.
Just a brief response, Lalit.
जी.
Just a brief response. General Govardhan Singh talked with me also about that book, the Bengali author's book. And I told him that you need not give any importance to that book because he does not claim that it is history.
Fiction.
He says that it is a historical fiction.
Yeah.
He has just used the historical events as a background and then created the whole thing in his mind. So that's it. I don't give any credence to that book.
That is the point I exactly have made. He's called it a fiction using all the real names, real dates. Now the person who's reading it, what is he going to understand out of it? Even that's even a sacrilege, bigger sacrilege. He's trying to deceive the people by a backdoor entries.
Why do you give importance to him? Ignore it. Alex Rutherford, they are a husband and wife team. Alex Rutherford is a pseudonym. And they have written a number of books on Mughal history. But again, that is fictionalized history. Some facts, and then they imagine the scenario. But this man, what he has done is he has not only used his imagination, but he has also created some of the facts as well. That is the problem with him.
सर आपने मुझे एक बहुत बढ़िया बात याद दिलाई है. बहुत बढ़िया बात आपने मुझे याद दिलाई है. If you allow me to speak in one or two sentences, वो कहते हैं सर जंगल का राजा शेर होता है. And they say if that शेर जंगल का राजा did not have good scribes, good historical writers, the history will always be written in favor of the hunter. I'll repeat it again.
Hunters, yes.
If the jungle did not have good scribes to write history, the history will always be written in favor of the hunter. So that is what the history is.
Yes,
Now you can take it.
African, yes.
Captain Murthy, I believe you have something to say.
I have a very basic good evening, all the worthy members of the International Dogra Society. I have a very simple question to ask Mr. Samyal and Brigadier Vidyasagar. That we are at the end of this series. Where do we stand? In our collective wisdom, what roadmap are we going to make for ourselves? And like Mr. Virender asked a very pertinent question, as a community, as Dogras, because the International Dogra Society, a platform for Dogras, where do we stand today? I would like a brief answer, and what roadmap can we create with our collective wisdom? I would request Mr. Samyal to say a few words on that.
Thank you, Captain Murthy. And I hope you recall that you had another question a couple of lectures back. And today also I have briefly dealt with that question.
The intelligence
now,
failure.
regarding today's question, as I responded to Mr. Virendra Sharma, in my humble opinion, unless the fault line between Jammu and Kashmir, that is Kashmir and Jammu, is resolved, no solution is possible. First of all, we have to set our own house in order. Without doing that, we cannot move forward. Because the clash between the Jammu Hindus and Kashmiri Muslims, that will always draw us back to that confrontational situation, we have been living in the state of confrontation for the past 90 years. And if we do not resolve that, we'll be condemned to repeat the same mistakes again and again. And how that is going to end, nobody knows. The scenario can be very bleak. No country in today's world can think, and no political party, the Congress was wiped out, the BJP also will be wiped out someday, and the loss will be of the people, the country, particularly the Jammu and Kashmir people. So this thing, Kashmiri leadership has to decide that was 1846 a sale deed? If it was a sale deed, then let us reject that sale deed. Let there be a separate state of Kashmir and a separate state of Jammu, so that we go back, revert back to the pre-1846 situation. But if things amalgamate, and if two different groups can come together, then Jammu and Kashmir has the possibility of becoming a very strong state. As we all know that on human indices, J&K has fared much better than many of the so-called developed states of this country. No state has provided free education till the university level. It is only the state of Jammu and Kashmir that has provided. Yes, of course, there is injustice. There is injustice because the Kashmiris want to take some kind of revenge upon the Dogras, and the Dogras have responded with more hatred and more aggressively. And now when they find that they are being supported by the rest of the country, the rest of the Hindu India, they are even more aggressive. The book that I wrote about Dr. Karan Singh's period of 1949 to 1967, I emphasized on this point, and two persons, eminent persons, who took notice of that and congratulated me were first Dr. Manmohan Singh, and the second Dr. Pranab Mukherjee, late Pranab Mukherjee, who read that book within 24 hours. And the message was that it's a very significant work. Significant because that I had focused on that democratic development in the state during the Bakshi and Sadiq regime, and how the plebiscite front and even Sheikh Abdullah were marginalized by Bakshi Ghulam Muhammad. Now what has happened now is, today we have forgotten Sheikh Abdullah, what Sheikh Abdullah wanted to do and could not do. Now we have achieved that today. We have thrown that period, all the achievements of that period, in the dustbin. I can speak very passionately and strongly about this subject, but for two reasons I don't do that. This is not my platform. In my book, I have been very open about this. In my forthcoming book, I am even more open about that. And I also am aware that Jammu is not in a state of mind where it is prepared to listen anything amicable about Kashmir and the Muslims. I am fully aware of that. I've been a journalist, I move around, and I have a number of public stands over political and social issues, economic issues. And I'm happy to be in good company also, and in the company of those who are critics of what I stand for or what I write. But in my opinion, this is the situation. First of all, this fault line has to be resolved. As long as this fault line has been used, we do not realize that what cost we have paid the Jammu people. We are the tools. We are the pawns in this game of spreading this hatred. And has hatred ever in the history given something good to mankind? So we have to think differently. How we do that? That is a challenge before our policymakers and the leaders. I am not a policymaker. I am not a leader. I can only analyze things as I find them. It is for the leaders and the policymakers to accept or reject them. Thank you very much. Yes, Captain
Captain Murthy, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Lalit. I appreciate your efforts, Mr. Lalit, for having organized all this. And I'm very keen to meet Mr. Samyal very soon, so that I can increase my wisdom, I can improve my perceptions. But what has recently happened in Kashmir, in the most recent grassroots electoral exercise, that all those Kashmiri politicians, they have come together on one platform and proved a point which Mr. Harvansh is trying to say, the fault lines between Jammu and Kashmir. But my point is, unless Jammu does the same, we have too many schools of thought in Jammu, too many smaller and larger organizations propagating different things, maybe playing in the hands of some vested interests. So if we can follow Kashmir and we can unite our groups here, maybe the chances of finding a solution to the fault lines brighten up.
That's a good thought, but I think let Brigadier Vijay Sagar respond to this.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. You saw my eagerness to pick up the mic. Okay, thank you. What Captain Murthy is saying, absolutely bang on. We are talking about a common platform. Like my IDSA's basic aim is to put people on the same platform, people from Jammu, people from Kashmir, people from Gilgit-Baltistan, and people from POJK, and people from Ladakh. That is how your original J&K state becomes. And that's our aim as well, whether it's government of India or government of Pakistan. They should release theirs and they should give us more independence. And then let all of us decide, you want to be Pakistan, you want to be India, or even for that matter, independence, depending on where your interests lie. If your prosperity, your economic strength, your security lies with India, be with India, or it lies with Pakistan, be there. If you can survive on your own, a lot of people give examples about European unions and all, well, why not? But then let there be a dialogue, let there be a common voice, let there be a concurrence, and let that proposal be given to the world, whether it's the international forums like UN and all, which are more or less defunct in the present atmosphere, or it is to India or Pakistan or whatever. But then what question Captain Murthy is asking, I hope Colonel Satish Lalhotra was here. He was the right man to ठोक के बोलना, तो मैं ठोक के तो नहीं बोलूंगा, but I will still convey to Captain Murthy, you've got the thing absolutely right. Before we look for getting those people from Kashmir or Ladakh or Gilgit-Baltistan or POJK, firstly we have to get all the people in Jammu on one platform. That is the major exercise which General Govardhan Singh Nawal is trying. He has already, I would name, he called at least 2 major political parties. They have concurred, but there are others who are yet to come on board. So that is a very important and a more challenge that we have in Jammu. हम डोगरे कम, हम यहाँ पे हिंदू, मुसलमान, सिख, ईसाई, बकरवाल, फिर उसके बाद राजपूतों में कौन से राजपूत 10-12, ब्राह्मणों में 10-12, महाजनों में 10-12, हम वो सारे अपने यानी क्या कहते हैं ना, वो अपने डोमेन लेके बैठे हुए हैं. And this is the fine one. And we are not, and we all realize, we all have been told also very clearly that this is a Ghazwa-e-Hind, jihad, which probably would have died down in case of, as Mr. Samyal said, jab Bakshi Ghulam Mohammad वगैरह आए, so these things were diluted. They were brought back by Indira Gandhi in 75 by getting Sheikh back onto the bandwagon. That is the first time we started using words like Kashmiriyat and Sufism, which Pandits are opposing tooth and nail. What is this nonsense theory? So वो गलती हो गई. So उसको करने के लिए this is very important that we get everybody on board, and then only we can say okay, let's go and talk to somebody else. वो 8 parties गुपकार उन्होंने एकदम से एक alliance declare कर दी. Of course, already there's a fractures there also. One of them is already left. So यहाँ पे तो
that's a different ball game. I mean, there are different pressure groups, and I don't have the mandate to speak on national security and the national political class.
But that's okay. I'm talking about political front in Jammu. We are not ready to stand on a single platform, even for a discussion. Forget about getting this thing. So that is the problem probably that we have today. And all of us realize कि यार पंडितों को निकाला, अभी हिंदुओं की बारी जम्मू में नेक्स्ट है. अब नंबर आपका है. उसके बाद पंजाबियों का आएगा, हिमाचलियों का आएगा, और उन्होंने दिल्ली जाना है क्योंकि उनको जुम्मे की नमाज शाम वाली दिल्ली में पढ़नी है, जामा मस्जिद के अंदर जाके पढ़नी है. तो वो कभी आपकी गंधारी अफगानिस्तान से आती थी और पूर्वी सागर आपका साउथ चाइना सी था, वो आपकी कंट्री का था. तो ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ हिंदूज हैव सीन इट, बट हिंदूज वांट मोर टॉलरेंस, more love, and what is the third thing they said? Hindus should have non-violence. So अब you want to eulogize कि ओरस ने बोला था उसको, अपना पृथ्वीराज चौहान ने बोला था गौरी को तू फिर आएगा मैं फिर तेरे को छोड़ दूंगा, 18 बार किया, 19 बार उसको पकड़ लिया, blah blah blah. The story is repeating. So we are basically landing nowhere as Hindus. So I hope Captain Murthy, I have answered your question.
Yeah, thank you, Brigade Saab. It's very, I mean, you've done it in a very interesting manner. So I would request Lalit ji to carry forward this initiative in the form of smaller debates now, so that we can interact more often and exchange our views and contribute our bit.
Definitely, we would definitely do some more of these things in the future, and you all are the people who are guiding us and telling us. We are learning from all of you, Harban sir, Viren sir, Brigadier Dhiman, and especially you as well, Captain Murthy. So you guide us and we shall follow. I think Viren Sharma ji also wanted to say something.
No, I think Captain Murthy put that to you, which I was going to suggest, that should not be the end of the dialogue, but there should be a different format, which should not be only kept to the Jammu area, but the people like myself living abroad, outside India, also not contribute, but to understand and learn more the political developments taking place in the country. We still have the passion, though I always say, Lalit, that we are in Britain now. Over 50 years ago, I left India, but the passion is still there. We still have that kind of attachment with United India, and that's where we need to, that's what I enjoyed when I joined your classes, Harbans-ji, to listen to,
Yes.
and really as a student, I learned quite a lot, which helps me when I put the argument back to those who I always believe are the anti-India lobby working in Britain. And Vijayji's, I'm very closely communicating with him, and he always helps me with the views and ideas and the contributions I could make. So that's why I will be pushing it, that I wanted to be part of that discussion as a student rather than as a lecturer. Okay.
Sorry, I'll just want to make one statement. We all agreeing that we must discuss more, and I'm sure Lalit will organize more such functions under the banner of International Dogra Society. But at the same time, let me tell you all, inform you all that this International Institute of GNK Studies and Analysis, I've already done about, and more are following, because I thought that I'll do one per month. That's what I was advised by some intellectuals. But then the way popularity is going, we can have more often. And I would request all of you to kindly join me whenever we can. Because that is why I'm saying is because, let me be very vocal on this. A lot of guys have a paranoia कि भाई ये मेरे प्लेटफॉर्म से मेरे बंदे को चुरा के ले गया या मेरे को आगे कॉपी कर ले. गिव एंड टेक. कछुआ खरगोश की कहानी खत्म वो हमने सिखाई थी ना, स्लो एंड स्टडी विंस द रेस. नाउ द 4 phases and that video I made it on my Brigadier Guide View YouTube channel. One must read that, at least the young boys like you and girls, because it's a cooperation ka zamana. There is one, you have something specialty niche, I have a specialty niche. We both have to combine together so that, you know, we synergize our efforts and both are joint winners. It is not to cut each other's legs or something. Because the other day, I spoke on somebody's platform, the guy was annoyed. He said, yeah, you hijacked my... I said, I thought I added value to your... Delhi, it happened in Delhi in a big issue. I thought I added value to your program. And well, if you think that I've been doing against you, I'm sorry for it. You can cut my portion and don't, post that. That actually happened.
No, you are right. It's time for shedding all the insecurities. It's time to come together, especially when we all have the same motive. We all are thinking towards the same line. There shouldn't be any insecurities. We all are here to support one another and overall learn from each other. And the end result is same for everybody, that we all want the best for J&K. So,
Lalit, like what Captain Murthy has said, abhi Jammu walon ko sikhana yaar, if possible. Thank you so much.
Right, sir. Right, sir.
Lalit.
Thank you.
Ji.
Lalit, may I come in?
Ji, please, please.
Mr. Virendra Sharma and I myself, we are examples that we participate in this forum and we also participate in Brigadier Vijay Sagar's forum. So there is a reason for doing that. And finally, one suggestion that I fully endorse, that we should be meeting in a different format and let there be a discussion on ancient India, Mahabharata, or the idea of India.
Yes.
Any of these topics, since Brigadier Vijay Sagar has raised this issue a number of times about Kandahar and all that, and in my opinion, confusing between what India was then, there was no India, in fact, there was nothing of that kind, and what at present it is. So there needs to be some kind of interaction so that I have a better understanding.
Sure, sir. We'll plan this offline and introduce soon. It's a very good idea. Yes. Before we close today's session, last call out to all of you. If there is any question, otherwise I would like to thank everybody for joining every time, supporting, listening. And the best part I always look forward to is to this discussion after the session, where we all are so candid, so natural, and we don't hold back. And that is the whole point and beauty, that we come out and we discuss everything, what we feel, whether, as Brigadier Dhiman said, there has to be a view, whether it's right in somebody else's eyes or not, but there has to be a view, and I'm glad that we are able to discuss this here. So with this, we will bring today's session to an end, and we will soon meet with more proposed things, more discussions as advised by everyone. Thank you. Namaskar.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, sir. Good night, sir.